Get out right out of your bed, that's your quicksand. Getting rid of anxiety and head, you can fix it. Rid of stigmas, all of them you said, we ain't listening. Just remember, try to do your best, you can win this. Maurice Benard, State of Mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Charles Noonan.
Hi then. Back for a second time. I am a psychiatrist. I'm retired. I am 74 years old, and I was the psychiatrist that originally diagnosed Maurice with bipolar disorder 38 years ago. Lot there. So we're gonna have a fun time today with this band, and I want to introduce him to you as probably one of the best actors on earth. In my opinion, he's the godfather of television. That if they were to ever make a fourth Godfather episode, he should be the Don. He'll have to do that or not, I don't know. But, on that note, I would like to introduce Mr. Maurice Benard.
So just so we're clear on what's going to happen here, Dr. Noonan, when I was in a mental institution, they would not tell me what I had because they didn't know. And so I spent 2.5 weeks in there, horrible, tied down to a bed sometimes, and then I escaped. And it's all in my book, New York Times bestseller. Thank you. But you know, I didn't know. You know, what's going on with me? Is it something in my brain? And so my mom and dad ended up calling Dr. Noonan. I think that's the way it worked. And I went to meet him. And so he's the psychiatrist who, after about, I don't know how long it was, he looked up and he said, "You're going to be all right?" I said, "Well, what do I have?" And he said, "You're manic depressive." And for the first time, I had a name, and it was just amazing. He said, "We're going to put you on this, and you're going to be okay." Well, I was okay, but a lot of times I didn't take my medication. Then I went, all right, how are you, buddy?
I am perfect. I'm happy to be here with you.
Don't make me cry, Barbara.
I'm not here to make you cry.
All right.
Oh no. Oh no. It's all about being a better human being, about being better, period. About continuing on the journey of life.
Yes.
Part of where I wanted to take us is partly through your book.
Okay.
Because I know you don't remember a lot of what's in here. There is a lot in here. I read it twice. And if you haven't read this, I'll get yourself a copy and read it. It's a great book. It's well written. In this book are some interesting things about the early experiences you had in your life. And sort of interesting in a variety of ways. In some fashion, it was upsetting and horrible, maybe, in your family structure.
Yeah. Look, my mom and dad were oh man, I'm already gonna cry. dad was my idol. He passed away about a year and a half ago of Alzheimer's. And you know, I used to watch my dad at parties, and he'd be dancing and drinking and smoking and with women, and that's why I could play Desi Arnaz, you know, because I just played my father, right? Except he had a high voice, you know, and but my dad, he would use the belt to discipline me. And, you know, I guess if you have 5 sons, let's say, and 3 or 4 it's not that big a deal, but there's that one who's very sensitive, and that's who I was. It affects you, and it takes you to places. But he only did what his father did and what his, you know, grandfather did. So that's all he knew. But the problem is, like, when I confronted my father, and I said, Dad, you know, that was abuse. He said, no, it's not abuse. I said, yeah, Dad. I said, when you're a little boy and you're looking up to a man who's 6 foot with rage, hitting you with a belt, that's abuse. But he was beautiful, man. He just said, I'm sorry. I didn't know. And that's the way, you know, that's all he knew, is how to be that way to discipline. But they gave me a lot of love, you know, my mom and dad, a lot of love.
You talked about them a lot in the book.
Yeah.
And you pointed out all of the things in great detail that had gone on from the time you were very little. I'm not sure what age you were when, you know, some of that stuff with your dad finally stopped. I guess you were a teenager. And
yeah, it was about 10, 11, maybe 12 on there. Yeah, it stopped. But it wasn't, my dad didn't, it's not like it happened a lot. But it doesn't matter, because maybe once is too much when you're sensitive.
yeah, I don't mean to go overboard psychiatrically about it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that in modern times that we're in now, certainly that is long gone.
Yeah.
You know, people that are older obviously remember some of this stuff. But in some instances, people have a long-lasting impact from this. Psychiatry maybe is guilty to a certain degree of magnifying childhood traumas, and how those are carried within all of us to a certain degree. A lot of the early literature in psychiatry was written by like Sigmund Freud and other people like him, that was very focused on early childhood experiences and how that basically formed the person's personality for their whole life.
Yeah.
And they designed therapeutic systems, you know, like psychoanalysis, to try to undo all that stuff. But I think part of the important point is that, like, boys model after fathers. And your father was like a macho, classic, Hispanic father who spoke with a thick accent, and he was very much that kind of person in the way you have described him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he did die recently. But yes, as you wrote in the book, that you finally were able to confront him and get him to apologize.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and the beauty is this, with any of this kind of stuff, abuse, mental health, whatever, you have to be able to break the chain. So you don't do that with your own children. So I've never laid a hand on any, or belt or anything on any of my children. But I still had the rage at times to want to, you know?
Not unusual sometimes.
Yeah, it's that rage,
stuff.
you're like, you know, Joshua, shut up, you know? But then I knew better not to do that. And thank God, because then it just repeats itself. right?
So it didn't necessarily make you a bad person.
No, no.
Or impair you in a very bad way. I think that, you know.
No, I think the rage is what brings, what, maybe that's what I had from that experience.
Well, you're a tough guy, right? I mean, you play.
Well, I play a tough guy on TV. I mean, you know, yeah, I'm a tough guy, but you know, let me tell you something. It's funny, and I think this may be in the book or not, I'm not sure. I remember in high school always fighting and wanting to fight and everything, but there would be days, there would be nights that I'd say, no, I was scared. And I don't know if that has to do with the bipolar or what, but why can I feel like King Kong and then I feel like a mouse? Why is that?
Probably a combination of the two. I think that.
Is that already the mental illness?
Yeah, you probably were already experiencing some things. Bipolar disorder tends to emerge in the teens, maybe mid to late teens and into the 20s. So it's a lot of times it's difficult to recognize because it's not something that comes out in some bizarre ways. It's like usually an increased energy or maybe a decrease in mood, like a depressive kind of a thing. And it's, you know, maybe your personality, you just happen to be a bubbly person, or you're just kind of a negative type personality. So, and then once it starts to become noticeable in a major way, where like you can see it, there's a mood swing, then you know that something's going on. When
let's tell these people what it's like to be manic.
Mhm.
So, my first nervous breakdown with my manic episode, nobody knew what was going on. I hadn't met him. I didn't know anything. And you just start doing, this is when you're bipolar and you're going through a manic episode, I started doing things that were unusual, okay? Jumping in a swimming pool with my clothes on. It's a cool story, man. I was, well, the night before, I remember I was with my buddy and my girlfriend, this girl I was with, and we went to go eat at Burger King. We ate a Whopper. Who cares? We're hungry. We went back to his house, and he's sitting right in front of me. And I said, Jeff, I said, I can read your mind, man. He goes, shut up. I said, no, man, think of something. He thought of it, and I said it. And he looked at me, and I said, think of something else. He thought of something, I said it. And he goes, dude, you're scaring me, dude. So we went to the other room, and that was the first night that I knew there was something going on with me, but it was almost, I have to say this, it was a bit demonic. Because I had a nightmare, and in the nightmare, it was like bad, like the bunch of the devil and stuff in my head. Then I woke up and I remember going to the balcony and just crying, uncontrollably crying. My buddy comes out and he says, what's wrong, man? I said, I don't know, man. And I remember everything like outside in the gray, looking so beautiful and clear, but I was messed up, right? And he goes, come on, let's go to the pool. And we're at the pool with our, we have our clothes on, and he's in front of me and he says, what are you feeling, man? What's wrong? And I said, I think I'm losing my mind. Now, I mean, I hadn't got, this is early. And he goes, no, you're not. So I jumped in the pool, and then he jumps in the pool with his clothes on to let me know you're all right, And then I went home, and just things started to unravel. one night, I wake up from my bed and I start just yelling. And my dad comes into the room, he sits down, he goes, "What's wrong?" I said, I took it like an angel thing, crucifix, and I bent it. And I said, "I'm the devil." I don't want to scare you guys, man. I'm just giving you what this is about, right? And I remember my mom going downstairs on the phone. I said, "What is she doing on the phone?" And my dad goes, "Oh, she's calling the doctors." I said, "She better not be calling the police." You know, it's in my book. And then,
Yes, I do.
yeah, and then I went downstairs and there's a knock on the door. And my mom says, she'll never forget that look I gave her, like like Michael Corleone, The Godfather, you know? And I opened the door and it's the cops and I looked at her like, so they come in and they happen to be friends of mine from high school, but they can't do anything because I start acting good again. I'm good. I had tears though. So they left and that was it. Next morning, they take you into the hospital and this acting coach gave me a stage name called Rick Madrid. And so when I had to sign myself in, I signed Rick Madrid. And then they brought me into the room and I thought I was The Exorcist because that movie traumatized me. And that's kind of what it is to go through a manic episode. Now, I don't think you always have to be hospitalized, right?
Oh, no, you don't always have to be hospitalized.
Why, well, my mom and dad didn't know any better, so it's not that, but you can maybe do it without it, or what do you?
Well, I think people hope that they could, but when you're having delusions and hallucinations, delusion being something that's not a realistic occurrence, something like you believe something satanic or whatever.
Or if you're violent, right?
Yeah, well, behavior then, yeah, that gets out of control and it's destructive, for sure. That's when, we worry that if this continues on, somebody's gonna get hurt, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in modern psychiatry, I think they try not to do as much of the stuff they did in your case. I think that it was a little bit almost on the border of abusive, what you went through.
Well, what I went through in the hospital was when you're a bad boy in the hospital, because I didn't take my pills. So I jumped on the counter. I don't know why I jumped on the counter. I did. And they throw you in a seclusion room with 4 walls, a bed, and they tie you down from your wrist, your waist, your ankles. And it's a story that I tell. All I wanted to do was get out. All I wanted to do is get out. You can't get out when you're tied up. So I was trying to get out, and I got to this latch about this long on the wall. And I took the latch to my wrist and I prayed and I said, "God, why are you doing this? Help me, please." Opened my eyes, I took the latch, broke it in half into a cross and put it by my bed. And even that, I can see it, man. I can see it. Even in that moment, deep down, with all the pain, I knew there was a reason that I had to go through this. And I believe that the reason is I had to suffer to prevent other people from suffering. And what we're doing here is that we're talking, we're listening. You guys are gonna maybe go home and maybe have a different perspective on bipolar or depression or anxiety, and it's gonna help. And I haven't shut up for 30 years. But only during the pandemic did I feel there's a big shift. Because the pandemic is a curse and a blessing. The curse is all the suicides. And the blessing is, you see on TV now, everything's bipolar. If you're bipolar 1, if you have anxiety, if you have this, I didn't see that 5 years ago. That's the beauty of it, so.
Well, there's an explosion of problems that have spun off of the pandemic, as we all know, that so many people suffered in so many different kinds of ways, and it has continued on. Obviously, we're not okay, even several years later.
No, I mean, yeah, that's true.
For sure.
It's even worse now in a sense, but
we know it's worse.
Yeah.
Along with many other kinds of things that are occurring in our country, which I think is kind of important to just touch upon. That the fentanyl crisis.
Oh, yeah.
The suicide crisis in young people. In my opinion, the epidemic of addiction to social media, the use of cell phones, especially in young people once again. And it's kind of infiltrated into family structures. As much as people are well-intended as parents in the modern era, there's a problem there. I think that if you're realistic about it, you see it everywhere. You see families sitting in restaurants, tables.
I know.
One's looking at phones.
I know.
And that's not just what they do it at home. And so we have kind of lost our ability to figure out how to deal with that. Got the same thing going on in my family with the grandchildren, and they're getting to the ages where their parents, just give in and say yes because all their friends have phones. And this kind of stuff, and then it opens up that vast universe of things that happen.
Yeah, I agree that there's a problem there, but there's also a good thing about, like, during the pandemic that I didn't have, doctor, when I was young. When I was young and I escaped from the hospital, I had 8 months of depression. I was by myself at the house for a long, and I didn't have, at least now I could go to YouTube and figure out what's wrong, what is manic depression, and look it up, listen to people who are, and
Yes.
That's the good part
Yes.
about that, right? If I had that at that time, I think it would have been a lot easier for me.
Well, believe me, I know that you were reluctant to get a cell phone, and I have a cell phone, and I use it for a lot of research because that's what I do. I'm a researcher. I probably never will stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because I'm eternally curious about what's happening to human beings.
Yes.
So you're right. Yeah. Oh, no question. I mean, it opens up a vast area of information access.
But I do know that when you go into a restaurant and everybody in the family is looking down their phone and they're not talking, I mean, there's got to be something not good from that, and it's just the way it is. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Well, we're built to communicate.
Yeah.
We're a electrochemical movement machine that has all these senses built into it, and they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And so I mean, just simply the progression of things like that, along with other problems on a larger scale where we've we don't trust each other as much anymore. Kids don't even date.
I know. I was just talking about that with my son.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody. It's like in the past, it was like you saw a girl at the mall. That's where I met my wife. She was 16, dancing to "We Are Family," and we've been together ever since, right? Now it's just all on the things. You swipe and swipe and swipe.
I like you laughing. That's really great.
That's the best, man. But it's not. But you don't really get to know. It's like you can be talking to somebody on these things, and all of a sudden they block you. It's like you had a great talk, and this kid's good looking. Everything's going great, and all of a sudden it's gone. You didn't have that before. It would be more like maybe she wouldn't call or, you know, but it's really hard now to date.
Mhm. But talking about girls, why don't we talk a little bit about you and girls going back in the time machine?
Okay. Well, boy, I really wish I could talk about that, but I'd get in trouble. Yeah, you know, I just, you know, my MO was to take girls out and then, maybe, you know, I used to drink a little bit when I was, you know, like a beer or something. And then listen to music and I'd sing to them and then make out. I mean, that was kind of the way it would work. And, but I always liked to have one girlfriend. I was into having one girlfriend, you know.
Well, you certainly are a handsome devil.
You bet your ass I am. Not as handsome as Walt Willey, but well.
When I first saw you, you were the most watchable man in America.
Oh man, the most watchable man in America. Yeah. Let me tell you about this this is pretty funny. So I entered this contest called the most watchable man in Contra Costa. And I got like runner up or something, or first runner up, whatever that means. So I was like, cool. And then I entered in San Francisco, most watchable man in San Francisco. God knows I'm the most watchable man in San Francisco. and I win, okay? So I win this thing. Now I'm gonna go to the most watchable man in the world or something. I don't know what the hell it was. Maybe in Los Angeles, no, in the country, I don't know. Most watchable man in America, yeah, right. So, I thought it was they had it on a certain date, but then I was in the mental institution. Sorry, I was in a mental institution. And, you know, I thought I'm not doing it now, obviously, because after the mental institution, that year was gone. Well, they postponed it, not for me, but just because they postponed it by chance, and it was on like 4 months later. So now you have to understand, I just gone through 8 months of depression. I was literally no confidence. I was just like, so I fly out there, and it's like a Miss America for men. So we come out in a suit, and then we come out in a bathing suit. And then you come out in a casual thing. And they asked me, what do you like in a woman? And I said, it's not what's on the outside, it's what's in the inside. And I heard that, right? So my dad was in the audience, my mom was there, my dad's drinking, like, come on, my son, yeah. And they said, the winner is Maurice Benard. And oh man, my dad, you would think I won 5 Oscars, you know what I mean? He was like, yeah, and so I ended up winning, but you know what's amazing? That I was mentally not good that whole year, bad, you know, everything. But once I win, I'm almost back to normal. It's all mental, right?
Yes.
It's all mental because nothing changed from before I won to after winning. It's just automatically I'm good.
Mhm. Well, I just wanted you to make some comments about that. One of the interesting things as I think about you is about who you are internally. Because I know that, you know, when you are an attractive human being, you know, it could be your MO in terms of how you go about living your life. You're in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching you.
Right.
It's your job to do that. But I was going to ask you, Maurice Benard, who are you? Who are you inside?
Oh man, he's doing the whole thing on Gandhi on me. Who am I? Jesus. No, I'm not Jesus. That's a really good question that you got me stumped. I think I'm a man who can look in the mirror. I'm very strong, but I'm also very fragile. And I have a lot of compassion for life, for people. I have a lot of compassion, you know. Things make me cry all the time. And I don't think they would make other people cry as much as they make me cry, because I see it all the time. If I see a dog that needs to be rescued, I mean, most people would for that. But there are things on TV that, like 90 Day Fiance, you know. I'm crying like a baby, man. And I know like people would be looking at me like, why? But it's because I love real human emotion. It always gets me.
Do you like yourself?
Yeah, I like myself a lot better now than I ever had.
How come?
Because, thank you. Because I feel peace inside. And so by feeling peace inside, I've come to know myself. This is who I really am. I don't know who I was for 58 years, man, because it was dark. So without that darkness and just having this joy, I'm good.
Do you know what brought that about?
What brought it about was, you can answer that phone, it would be good. What brought it up, I think what brought it about, to be, if you want me to be real brutally honest,
Please.
is during the pandemic, when I had 4 months of torture and hell, and it's the closest I've ever been to dying. When you go through that and you come out from the darkness to the light, and you know you've done that, that's what started opening me up so much. And also, I started not caring what people think. That's a major thing, not to care. Whole life I cared so much, and it's affected my acting. I mean, I could fake it with acting. Nobody kind of knew, but it was so difficult. Everything was so difficult. Acting was difficult. Talking to people was somewhat difficult. Going to the supermarket. My dad would go to the supermarket and he'd be like, "Hello, ¿qué pasó? Hi, how are you?" I said, "Dad, why are you talking to everybody? I'm happy. I feel good." I never understood it. Now, I go to the supermarket and I'm my dad. So there's a change. Um,
I know that there's another guest that you want to bring on.
All right, yeah.
And I thank you for this.
Yeah.
And one last question I want to
Yeah.
ask you is, what lies ahead for you?
I just want to continue to do everything that has to do with state of mind. Because even if there's been times where I say I can't do this or whatever, I can't stop, because somebody will send me a comment of, "My brother, you know, watched your show and it helped, and this, boom, boom, boom." So that's what I'm more proud of, and that's what I want to continue to do. doing it to me, man. I love you guys. You guys are the best. So who I have coming out? I hadn't seen, well, now I've seen him, but I haven't really talked to him since all my children. And when I was telling people that I haven't seen him, because he's been on my show, but I haven't seen him. Hey, can I get some water out here? Thank you. I hadn't seen him even on my show, so it's been like 35, 6 years that I talked to him. So I saw him here and I said, get away from him. Just get away from him. Just don't talk to me, but we can say hi, whatever. And one of the things that, aside from being talented, and I always said that Tony Geary, Steve Burton, and Michael Knight were the funniest people I've ever met in my whole life. And I'd forgotten the other person is Walt Willey. But it's funny because I just remembered how funny he was. I'm thinking, no, there's 4 people, and that's Walt. Come on out, Walt. How's it going, man?
Great, now that I've seen you again, yeah. He didn't see me on All My Children either. He didn't pay attention to me at all. Don't let him kid me. Please do. I just want to add my comment to what you're doing with this. I am so impressed, and think giving of yourself, bearing yourself like that to the betterment of others is one of the bravest, most humanitarian things a person can do, and I take my hat off to
it. It's been these, I've done over 300 of these now. And I gotta tell you, these actors, and I've had the actors from everywhere and sports people, but everybody is great. Like what he just said, there's never any kind of, I think we all want to help,
Yeah, and you talk about actors, and I think, actors are a very particular subset of human beings who often do what they do because of an issue they may have, whether it's hiding themselves inside another character, whether it's a way to keep running and not deal, whether it's a way to stop running and deal, and I think a lot of us that are like, I got in this business for a variety of reasons, not the least of which was I could really hide. As long as I made people laugh, then they wouldn't notice that I was not maybe quite right. As long as I kept them entertained, then that bit of craziness, pardon the term, is excused. But unfortunately, when it becomes excused, then it oftentimes isn't dealt with. And then later down the line, you're going, wow, well, I'm glad everybody was entertained because I'm checking in now,
Yeah.
And I don't know that I ever felt it to that extreme, but I will say, growing up, I was always the tallest in the class, so I couldn't hide. And with a name like Walt Willey, I was always the last and I stuttered. So with a name like Walt Willey, and I haven't grown an inch vertically since 8th grade, so I couldn't hide. So it was, here comes Walt. So no, but you feel a little bad for me, thank you. But that kind of shaped me as well, and not in all in bad ways, shaped me a bit to where I became funny. I became a little more thoughtful. I became a little quicker on my feet. So I was trying to get them to laugh at something I said before they started laughing at me. And so I could control the situation. I thought that way,
Do you still do that? to this day? Or
Control the
that-
situation
Yeah.
every chance I get.
Really?
No, well,
You gotta ease as you get older, that you don't need to do that, right?
well, no, because you're supposed to stay inside. No situation to control. No, I think that, boy, it took a long time for that need to ease out, a really long time. And some good has come of it, you know, building skills in other things, adjunct to acting, like hosting things.
Yeah.
Stand-up comedy and that, but it was also the product of compensation. Or, you know, if I keep tap dancing quick enough and smile, then nobody will
Right.
know that I missed a couple of steps somewhere, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little farm town in Ottawa, Illinois called Ottawa, about 90 miles. Ottawa, like Canada and Kansas, but neither one. Smaller than both and very small. And, you know, corn on three sides of the house. There was a vacant lot on the other side of the house. The neighbors got together and wanted to decide what they were going to do, like a neighborhood garden. But they ended up planting corn. So corn on four sides of the house.
So what was your childhood like?
My childhood was great. My childhood
Because, you know,
was
we've never
fantastic.
talked. I mean, we have to, hold on, I want to say something.
Sure.
Two things. Were you in the service?
No.
I don't know why. I always thought you, okay, fine, whatever. I stayed at your house, man.
Yes.
Yeah, that happened, right?
If you say it did, I'll go along with it because I don't remember for sure either, Maurice.
No, I was at you had like an apartment or something.
In Jersey City.
Yeah,
Yeah,
remember I stayed there and
Hugh Hefner's place with the big tall ceilings, that one or that?
I just know that I was at your pad.
Yes.
And I think Paula was there. Maybe.
Okay. I do remember picking you up to go into work a couple of times because we both lived in Jersey City. I remember, yeah, do you remember that? Yeah. But we have a shared past, but neither one of us can confirm it, okay? That's how it goes.
That's the best. But let's talk about All My Children. Okay,
Sure.
first of all, you know what? I didn't know you were on every freaking soap opera in the world.
In the world.
Can we go down the line on each soap?
We can try. Again, we have a shared soap history, but we can't confirm it. We'll try to confirm it.
You were on Edge of Night. Let's start with the beginning.
I was, well, folks, I was on Edge of Night for an episode or two, but that's where I met Larkin Malloy, who played my brother on All My Children. He was playing Skyler, right? And I was playing a Swiss policeman. I mean, when you look at me, you think Swiss policeman, right? So, but no, that was Edge of Night, maybe.
That's Edge.
Oh, that's Edge of Night. Because I also did Search for Tomorrow.
I don't have that one on here. Search for Tomorrow.
Guiding Lights.
How was Guiding Light?
Well, Betty Ray came to see a showcase, and she cast both As the World Turns and Guiding Light at the time. So once again, cops, not necessarily Swiss, but cops. A lot of cops. Played a lot of cops. I don't know, I guess I looked like a narc or something. Played a lot of cops. And then, you know, my first soap job, when I got to New York, I was so green, I didn't know what a headshot and resume was. I really didn't. I mean, I'd done some summer company, and I thought, you know, got good notices, and decided to go to New York and give it a try. I didn't know what I was doing. Thank God I didn't, or I never would have gone, you know. And there was a thing called the Ross Report. Right?
Right.
Where it tells you all the shows being produced in New York in that edition and who is casting them and blah, blah, blah. And so he says, All My Children, blah, 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 don't phone or come. In capital letters, in bold, don't phone or come. So I called. And understand this wasn't big, you know, cojones. What this was just So I get, and Suzanne Ringrose, right? She was the assistant casting director when Joan D'Ancheco, who probably cast you, no, yeah, was there. So we
I don't
agree on
remember.
that. Okay. I called her, and when you have a name like Walt Willey, people think Walt Disney, Walter Mitty, you know, they think they maybe heard it, Chili Willy, whatever, you know, and then, so she had me come in, and, you know, she gave me like 3 days work the next week in the goalpost, eating a burger or something. And so, and I did extra work, under 5 work, day play work. I was the maitre d' at the chateau. I was Adam's jet pilot. I was Palmer's limo driver. I was the guy that, I was the EMT that put Greg in the back of the ambulance when he fell and broke his neck that time. And I mean, so I got to learn this business doing that kind of stuff, doing background, and then watching people like David Canary, Peter Bergman, Ruth Warwick, you know, watching these people do this, you know, so I had maybe the last kind of, you know, studio hires you and you do a bunch of crap, but you kind of are brought up there. It was kind of an experience like, it was like on the job training. It was really interesting. I did One Life then, and my first contract was Another World. They hired Ving Rhames and I to play hitmen. Ving, he's believable. Me, not so much. How's Ving?
Yeah.
So
Big dude.
big dude, and a lovely man. And our first job was a remote in the island of St. Thomas, and we have to scuba dive. You know, and I've been a diver since I'm 16, so I was like, scuba dive, yes, let's do it. So the first night there, something goes in my back. And I mean, I'm projectile vomiting, my leg is shaking like this. I'm in trouble. No, I'm in real neurological trouble. And I'm on an island, you know, they just throw pain pills at you down there. You know, they don't, I don't know what's wrong. Go ahead, eat this. And so now my left leg is so weak, and we're getting ready to suit up. And Ving is looking at the equipment. He's just looking at it. And I said, you do scuba dive, right? Ving? He said, do I look like I swim? And that was it. He was out of it. So now I have to do it. Now I'm swimming in circles because my left leg is so weak. John Weitzel, the director, is screaming. His feet are so sunburned, he's gonna go to the hospital. He's screaming, "What are you doing? You're going around the boat like the shark in Jaws." So that's how Ving Rhames was. He was sitting on the beach watching me work. That's how he was.
So, well, how was it when you saw the character of Nico Kelly?
Personally, I mean, did I tingle or what?
I was scared out of my head, man.
Well, James Horan, right,
Yeah.
who played your uncle, right?
Yeah.
He had most recently beat me out of a job on Another World. So I didn't like him to begin with.
But you were on before me.
I was.
Okay.
I started in '87.
All right.
You started what, '89?
89, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, our storylines never crossed. I don't think once.
I don't think we even had a scene, did
Not
we?
a scene. We did?
Oh, they know. Yeah, you did.
We did. We think we may have had a scene together, but we can't confirm it. Can you? What was the scene?
You were all toasting of how wonderful men you were. The women were, you know.
See that?
5 wonderful men. And
5 wonderful men.
all
Are you sure Walt was there?
You know, sometimes the confirmation is not what we expect. But thank you.
Yeah, that job, that was for me, it was my first job. So I was petrified.
Oh, yeah, I was petrified too, because now I remember when I was testing for something else that turned out to be, I never read or tested for Jackson.
Oh.
Never, and I don't know that anybody else did. Could be, I don't know. But the story is that Megan McTavish, who was the head writer at that time, was in the, how do I put this politely? In the powder room, not powdering. And she was sitting there and said, Travis needs a brother. And I had just been fired from Ryan's Hope, playing the fourth incarnation of Joe Novak. And I guess because it was funny, I got a call. I called my agent back in the days where you used to dial your home phone and you know, that was horrible. And so I called my agent. I was just ready to go into this audition for a thing called Our Group, a therapy group, headed by a real psychiatrist, who was no actor, by the way.
Wow. Well,
Let me tell you, she was no actor. And everybody else was. And so I'm waiting to go in there, but I call my agent and she says, well, it's Jackson Montgomery. And I said, no, honey, this is Walt Willey. She said, oh, no, you're Jackson Montgomery. She said, they want you to go play Travis Montgomery's brother, Jackson. I'm like, well, when? Well, you start in 6 weeks. Well, I'm like, well, that's great. So I didn't care about this other job at all, you know. So, of course, because I didn't care about it, I went and I aced it. You know, tears and everything. And they gave me the job. So I had this wonderful, you know, tune-up fight because I've been working actually for Bo Dietl as a private detective after Ryan's Hope. And I've been doing that. So I had this great tune-up fight, and I was a Republican speech writer who was really gay but hadn't come out. Hey, I wasn't a cop.
That's that?
Well, there doesn't have to be a payoff for everything to share. No, and so I started playing Jackson Montgomery 6 weeks later, and I never looked back there.
What's going on with GH, man?
You know, now that ABC owns the rights to all the characters, because I think Agnes Nixon's estate did for years and years, they can do stuff like this. So I don't have to change my name to Martin Gray.
We like Martin Knight name. He's got a weird name.
They kept Martin Gray because I think they started.
Oh, that's Martin Gray.
Now there's a code you'll never crack.
Why is he called Martin?
I don't have all the answers. I'm sorry. I only have the question.
Why can't it? What? But why can't they call him Ted?
They could now, but they couldn't probably when they brought him on. This is a fairly recent thing.
Oh, but he can change his name to Ted. I don't know about that Martin Gray. Don't fit.
No, they call him Tag Gray, and everybody will be straight down with it. No, they called me and asked me if I'd come in and do Jackson. They had a spot for a lawyer, and would I come in and do it? And I hadn't done this in 12 years. You know, I hadn't done this in a long time.
Wow.
And they said, oh, it's just like getting on a bicycle. Yeah, and then being shoved out into the Tour de France. Yeah. It was you guys cook over there. I mean, you really long. Man.
You think?
Yeah, you know, we used to have things like rehearsals. No, it's amazing the amount of content that they do in one day. I was a little rusty.
And I don't think you're gonna have to sing Sonny. I don't think. What do you think?
Oh, no, Sonny probably needs a lawyer somewhere down the line.
He always does.
He always does. What? I think they may have just turned on us, Maurice. It's either rumbling or something. I don't know what it is. Did y'all eat yet?
Can we talk a little bit about, you've been married for 30 years, is that true?
Me?
Yeah.
I've been married for 42 years. 4 different women. And I believe the aggregate total should count.
And you got kids?
I do have kids. My son, Chance, 28, actor, poet, artist, bon vivant. And my daughter, Merritt, 25, soon to be 26. And she's a set designer, and yes, they're both artists.
How did they make you feel? The kids love them to death?
I love them to death. You know, I really and truly do. Like, I mean, it doesn't even, they're both really
Really?
Absolutely, absolutely. They're fascinating human beings. My son Chance is on the spectrum somewhere. That's a tough one to call, you know, because there's no diagnostics really other than certain hallmarks.
But what does that mean on the spectrum?
Well, you know, they,
Is that like overly smart or something like that?
well, it's different for every individual.
Yeah.
I mean, he has incredible talents. But for instance, when he was younger, could not read other people's emotions. Just blank slate, couldn't read them at all. He could replicate them as an actor, but he couldn't read them. Gosh, it is amazing. They're, you know, they used to sometimes call it savant.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what I'm saying.
and oh my God, yes. I mean, he can read a page of script and he has it. That's it. That's it. He just looks at it once. That's it. He can tell you things, you know, from 20 shows ago. He did. He can still do the entire show. Can't remember to, you know, make his bed. And the most interesting thing, Maurice, was raising him and watching this in him, because I was a weird kid. I was a weird kid, and I wasn't athletic. And
Why were you weird?
you know, my parents, my dad was 44 and my mother almost 40 when they had me, so maybe it was just old age and sperm. but you know, but of course that wasn't diagnosed in those days. You were just a weird kid, you know. And I drew a lot. I drew and drew, and I climbed into my artwork. That was my therapy. It allowed me to work some things out. It allowed me to pull the covers over my head, metaphorically speaking, and not have to deal with things. So that's what I did. I was, oh boy, I can't believe I'm telling this story. I made this contraption to prove the weird kid thing. I made this contraption that was, remember the clothespins, not the squeezy kind, but the round doll kind? Okay. I take one with the thing. I put a pencil there, and then I put a hairpin on each end. And when I spun that thing around, it made a screen, and I could see anything. And our house, the house I grew up was built, so there was an oval track. You know, you came out of the bathroom into the utility room, into the kitchen, dining room, living room, back into the hallway, and so I would walk around and around and around and around, doing all the voices, doing all the sound effects, a lot of superhero stuff, was into wrestling for a while, but that's just embarrassing. And I would do that, and I think because my parents tried for 13 years to have a child, and I think this was a blessing because nothing I did frightened them too much or was wrong, and they were okay with it. And they just thought, well, he's just an odd one, and that's okay. You know? And I think that was exactly the right attitude to have, because I was okay. I was just weird. You know, and because I wasn't like every other kid out there playing baseball and, you know, had baseball cards in their bikes and stuff like that. Because I wasn't that kid. They still love me. I mean, that love and that forbearance, I guess, would be a good word. That probably saved me.
Well, because anytime parents can let you be who you want to be or who you are, it's the most beautiful thing. Because if they didn't do that, they could have really messed you up.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If you know, my dad, who was my care as your dad was to you, worked for 47 years in a glass factory, sucking down silica, swing shift the whole time. Days one week, afternoons the next, midnights the next. And thought that was the greatest thing in the world. He had this great job, and I never heard him complain about it, not once. And you know, he got out of the 5th grade, and that was it. And started leading the pony out of the coal mine, you know, and this kind of stuff. That was his job. 13 brothers and sisters, and you know, and for him to have come out whole and be able to see a weird kid like that and go, why are you so weird? Big Irish Catholic, right? So why are you so weird? Never, not once. Not once did he. Now he may have said that to my mom. Jesus Christ, why is he so weird? But never in front of me, and there's a big difference.
No,
If they
no.
do it in front of you,
Yeah.
that's, that can break a kid, so.
They're telling me that we've run out of. How much time we got? No time?
Because karaoke is more important than this.
Let me just
Oh,
ask you
they
one
have an
last-
Elvis movie starting at 7.
I don't care about that. Let me ask you one last question. Any mental health, Walt? Since I don't know anything about, your life that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I never felt deserving of any of this because it seemed to come so very easily. And I mistrusted that like crazy. And I was just waiting for somebody to go, oh, no. We got you now. And that led me to a lot of self-medicating.
Yeah.
A lot of self-medicating. And we unfortunately, guys our age, we've grown up at a time where, boy, there are a lot of things available to self-medicate with, and legally, some of them, And I've had some rough times about that. Only in the past, only since the show is over, in 2011, have I come to terms with so much that it is okay. And the thing that really saved me was I was tired of it. I'd done it for 30 years or longer. I just didn't want to do it anymore. So I started painting. And I started to learn watercolors. And because folks, this is, if I have anything to say here, this is the most important thing. After humankind has shelter and food and warmth, the next thing we do is make art. Whether it's blowing red ochre around our hand on the cave wall, or making a little wooden token, carving that to take it with us, or telling a story around the fire. The next thing we do after we're fed and safe is make art. Art is really important to us. And I don't care if you're an artist or not, go look at art, read about art, find out why the painter, the sculptor, the weaver did what they did. And it'll open up a whole world for you. And I'd forgotten about that, even though I was an art major in college. I'd forgotten about that. And in painting, it was such a wonderful, organic thing. And somehow I got to where I deserved everything I got. I guess because I was doing something that didn't rely on an audience, that didn't rely on people laughing, that didn't rely on, I mean, I love y'all, don't get me wrong, but to do something that only relied on me going, yeah, you know what, that looks like something, was life-changing.
Let's give him a round of applause. Older than me. But he
Gave me $10 not to mention that.
and I'm not, because I don't bullshit. He looks the same that he looked 40 years ago. I mean, look. I look good. But listen,
Well, Maurice, before we're done, we'll step backstage. I'll take off my clothes, and then you can tell me how much I haven't changed. What's called gravity that none of us can touch.
I just want to say once again, I did it last year here, and you guys are just amazing, incredible. And what we had today was, for me, really, I mean, for you, I'm sure it was, but for me, it was the same. You had drama, and then you had this guy who's the funniest guy in the world. But he also talked about some very important things and opened up too. He wasn't just a funny guy. But I'm glad he did that because I was ready to laugh by the last time, Anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.